Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today's story is about a poor orphan boy who became a legend of silent films, Charlie Chaplin. Let's begin.
Chapter 1: The Boy Who Found Laughter in the Shadows. In the heart of London, where the gas lights flickered against the heavy fog, young Charlie lived in a world of song. His mother, Hannah, was a star of the music halls, her voice a bright ribbon that wound through the smoky air. Charlie watched from the wings, mesmerized by her grace. But one night, the ribbon snapped. Hannah stood on stage, her lips moving, but only a whisper emerged. The music continued, but the magic had vanished into the shadows of the rafters. Without Hannah's voice, the music halls fell silent, and their small room grew cold. Charlie's father had long since departed, leaving them to face the biting winter alone. Hannah tried to find work, but her strength faded along with her melody. Charlie and his older brother Sidney watched as the furniture was sold and the cupboards became bare. They shared crusts of bread by the window, watching the rich carriages roll past in a world that felt miles away. The shadows eventually grew too long to ignore. Hannah became very ill and was taken to a hospital, leaving the boys in the care of the state. At just 7 years old, Charlie was marched toward the iron gates of the Newington workhouse. A stern man named Silas met them at the door, his keys jingling like cold laughter. The brothers were separated, and Charlie felt the weight of the world settle on his small shoulders as the heavy doors groaned shut behind him. Life in the workhouse was a gray blur of thin gruel and hard floors. The air was thick with the smell of lye and the sound of coughing. Whenever he could, Charlie found Sidney in the yard. They huddled together against the brick walls, shivering in their oversized uniforms. Sidney tried to be brave, but the cold was a thief that stole their spirits. Charlie realized then that they needed something more than warmth to survive. They needed a reason to smile. One evening, in a dormitory filled with crying children, Charlie decided to fight the darkness. He stood up and began to move. He didn't use words, he used his face. He puffed out his cheeks like a bullfrog and wiggled his ears. A young boy named Arthur, who had been sobbing in the corner, stomped and stared. Charlie tripped over his own feet on purpose, landing with a soft thud that made the wooden floorboards creak. Arthur began to giggle, a sound so rare in the workhouse that it seemed like a miracle. Charlie didn't stop. He mimed eating a giant invisible feast, rubbing his belly and smacking his lips with delight. Soon, the entire room was echoing with the sound of children's laughter. For a few precious moments, the hunger and the cold were gone. Charlie realized that even in the grimmest places, a simple gesture could turn a shadow into a spotlight. Years passed, and the boys eventually left the workhouse, returning to the bustling, unpredictable streets of London. By 1903, Charlie was 14, a young man with a restless spirit and a hunger for the stage. He and Sidney navigated the crowded markets of Lambeth, looking for any chance to perform. Charlie's pockets were often empty, but his head was full of the characters he saw every day, the bakers, the chimney sweeps, and the weary travelers. Charlie heard of an audition for a play and rushed to the theater. The manager, a man named Alistair, watched from the darkened stalls with a bored expression. Charlie knew he had to do something different. He stepped onto the stage and transformed. He began to mimic a man who had spent too much time in a pub, swaying unsteadily and tipping an imaginary hat. When he finally tripped over a rug and tumbled perfectly onto his side, Alistair actually sat up and smiled. The audition was a success. Charlie landed his first professional job, which led him to join a famous touring comedy troupe. There, he met a veteran performer named Desmond, who taught him the secrets of the craft. Desmond showed him how a flick of a wrist or a twitch of a nose could tell a whole story. Charlie worked tirelessly, turning his childhood observations into a language of movement that everyone could understand. He wasn't just a boy from the workhouse anymore. He was an artist. And as the troupe prepared to set sail for a grand tour across the ocean, Charlie stood on the deck of the ship. He looked back at the London skyline, where the shadows of his youth still lingered. He thought of his mother's lost voice and the cold nights in the workhouse. He hadn't just survived the shadows, he had used them to find his light. With a small, knowing smile, he turned toward the horizon, ready to make the whole world laugh.
Chapter 2. The Boy in the Oversized Shoes. In the foggy streets of London, young Charles and his brother Sidney had survived on crumbs and dreams. But by 1910, the world grew wider. Carrying their meager belongings in a trunk full of costumes, the brothers boarded a massive steamship bound for America. They were part of a traveling comedy troupe, ready to bring their music hall magic to the glittering shores of a new world. America was a whirlwind of motion. For 3 years, Charles performed across the country, his timing so perfect that people began to notice. In 1913, a man named Mac, the head of a bustling film studio, saw Charles on stage. Max didn't just see another comedian, he saw a star. He invited Charles to a place called Hollywood, where stories were captured on flickering strips of silver. At the studio, everything was fast and frantic. One afternoon, Charles ducked into the wardrobe room to find a new look. He made a tailor named Elias, who watched as Charles began to experiment. He pulled on a pair of baggy pants that belonged to someone much larger in a tiny, tight jacket. He stepped into a pair of oversized shoes, putting the left on the right foot so they wouldn't fall off. To finish the look, Charles added a small derby hat, a bamboo cane, and a tiny postage stamp mustache. As he looked in the mirror, the tramp was born. He wasn't just a clown, he was a gentleman, a poet, and a dreamer. He was the resilient underdog who might fall down a dozen times, but would always brush off his dusty coat and keep walking toward the sun. The world fell in love with the little man in the big shoes. By 1915, Charles was no longer the hungry boy from London. He was one of the most famous people on earth. He signed contracts that made him the highest-paid artist of his time. An executive named Alastair handed him a golden pen, and with a single signature, Charles secured a future he had once only dared to imagine. But Charles wanted more than just fame. He wanted the freedom to tell his own stories. In 1919, he joined forces with a fellow artist named Roland. Together, they founded their own studio, United Artists. They were no longer just performers. They were the masters of their own destiny, ensuring that their art would never be controlled by anyone else. With his new freedom, Charles made The Kid in 1921. It was a story of a lonely man who finds a discarded infant and raises him as his own. He worked closely with a young boy named Jackie. Together, they showed the world that a movie could make you laugh until your sides ached and cry until your heart swelled, all without saying a single word. In 1925, Charles took the tramp to the frozen mountains in The Gold Rush. In one of the most famous scenes in history, the starving tramp and his friend Magnus were so hungry they had to cook a leather boot for dinner. Charles treated the boot like a fine delicacy, twirling the laces like spaghetti and savoring the meat of the soul. Even as movies began to talk, Charles stayed silent for City Lights in 1931. He played the tramp who falls in love with a flower girl named Virginia who cannot see. He spent his last penny to help her, proving that the greatest riches aren't found in a bank, but in the kindness we show to others. It was a story of pure, unspoken grace. From the workhouses of London to the bright lights of Hollywood, Charles had walked a long and winding road. He had turned his shadows into light, and his silence into a universal language. As the sun set on the golden age of cinema, the little man with the cane walked away into the distance, a timeless reminder that even the smallest person can leave the biggest footprint. Chapter 3. The Silent King in a Noisy World. By 1940, the world was no longer the playground of a silent tramp. It was loud with the boots of soldiers and the shouts of tyrants. Charles decided it was time to speak. In a bustling Hollywood studio, he worked with his assistant, Luke, to prepare his most daring film, The Great Dictator. For the first time, the man who had mastered silence was going to use his voice to challenge the darkness spreading across Europe. The film was a masterpiece of satire. Charles played two roles, a humble barber and a cruel leader who looked just like him. In the most famous scene, Charles danced with a giant inflatable globe, tossing the world into the air as if it were a toy. He wanted to show that power without kindness was a fragile thing. When he finally spoke at the end of the movie, he pleaded for humanity, brotherhood, and peace. But the world's leaders were not all laughing. Some feared Charles's message of peace, and others questioned his loyalty. A stern investigator named Alaric began to follow Charles's every move, filling folders with notes and accusations. In the shadows of the Cold War, the artist, who had once been everyone's hero, was now being watched with suspicion, his every word scrutinized for signs of hidden agendas. In 1952, Charles boarded a ship for a brief trip to London with his wife, Elodie. As the Statue of Liberty faded into the morning mist, a telegram arrived. The government had revoked his visa. He was barred from returning to the country that had been his home for 40 years. Charles stood on the deck, feeling the cold spray of the Atlantic, realizing that his journey into exile had just begun. Charles and Elodie found sanctuary in Switzerland, in a grand house called Manoir de Ban. Nestled between the green hills and the shimmering lake, they built a life away from the noise of Hollywood. Charles traded the camera for a pen, writing his memoirs and composing music. Though he missed his old studio, he found a new kind of wealth in the laughter of his children and the quiet peace of the mountains. As the decades passed, the world began to remember the magic Charles had created. A young student named Julian visited him one afternoon to talk about the old films. Charles showed him a dusty projector, and for a moment, the room was filled with the flickering light of the tramp's adventures. He realized that while the politics of the world had changed, the laughter he had given people remained timeless. One evening in 1972, a phone call changed everything. A representative from the Academy named Theron reached out with an invitation. The film industry wanted Charles to return to America to receive an honorary award. At 82 years old, the exile was being invited back into the light. Charles looked at Elodie, and after 20 long years, he knew it was time to go back. When Charles stepped onto the stage in Hollywood, the theater erupted. The audience stood for 12 minutes, the longest ovation in history. Tears welled in his eyes as he looked out at the faces of a new generation of artists. They weren't cheering for a politician or a suspect. They were cheering for the little man who taught the world how to feel through the power of a single look. Charles returned to his Swiss home, content. On Christmas Eve in 1977, the house was quiet and filled with the scent of pine. He sat by the fire with Elodie, watching the snow fall softly against the window panes. He had traveled from the workhouses of London to the heights of fame, through the storms of exile, and finally back to a place of honor. He was a man who had finally found his rest. On Christmas morning, Charles passed away peacefully in his sleep. But the little man in the oversized shoes never truly left. In every corner of the world where a child laughs at a silly fall or a dreamer looks toward the horizon, Charles is there. He proved that even when the world gets loud and confusing, a bit of kindness and a well-timed smile can echo through the ages forever.
That was the story of Charlie Chaplin, from a poor orphan to a legendary king of silent films. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe for more stories in simple English. See you next time.